Good afternoon, everyone. Hope you're having a great day. I'm Kimberly Castillo and we'll be discussing all about information value. Information is classified into two parts, which is tangible and intangible. The primary difference between tangible and intangible is that tangible is something which a person can see, feel, or touch, and thus they have the physical existence. Whereas the intangible is something which a person cannot see, feel, or touch, and thus do not have any of the physical existence. One of the example is that the physical count of books a system sells per hour is considered a tangible, the revenue of a system. However, when we talk about intangible value of information, it includes the reputation we invest in a system. What would it cost in our reputation if the system would be available within an hour, a day, or a month? Age of information is a metric used to assess the freshness of data by measuring latency from receivers' perspectives. It is simply defined as the time elapsed since the latest useful piece of information that reached its intended destination has been generated at its source. Value decreases over time. AOI, or age of information, is very relevant in applications in which information is time varying, such as in vehicular monitoring system, industrial sensor networks, and surveillance videos, among others. Techniques used to optimize other latency metrics such as rate, throughput, and transmission delay are often not optimal in AOI-centric frameworks. It is therefore necessary to develop new methodologies to optimize and analyze systems that use AOI, or more generally, any functional of AOI as their performance metric. Useful life refers to the estimated duration of utility placed on a variety of business assets, including buildings, machinery, equipment, vehicles, electronics, and furniture. Useful life estimations terminate at the point when assets are expected to become obsolete, require major repairs, or cease to deliver economical results. The estimation of the useful life of each asset, which is measured in years, can serve as a reference for depreciation schedules used to write off expenses related to the purchase of capital goods. An information security and risk management (ISRM) strategy provides an organization with a roadmap for information, an information infrastructure protection with goals and objectives that ensure capabilities provided are aligned to business goals and objectives that ensure capabilities provided are aligned to business goals and the organization's risk profile. Traditionally, ISRM has been treated as an IT function and included in an organization's IT strategic planning. As IRM has evolved into a more critical element of business support activities, it now requires its own independent strategy to ensure its ability to appropriately support business goals and to mature and evolve effectively. A multi-phase approach to developing an ISRM strategy is often most effective and provides recognizable results and value to an organization. When developing an ISRM strategy, it is important to understand the organization's current business conditions, as they will dictate the ability of the organization to execute the strategy that has been defined. If an organization does not have the staff, budget, or interest in a robust or expansive ISRM capability, the strategy must reflect this situation. In many cases, organizations will implement effective capabilities only if those capabilities will reduce their capital and operational expenses or increase their value in the marketplace. Information security is the sum of the people, processes, and technology implemented within an organization to protect information assets. It also prevents unauthorized disclosure, disruption, access, use, modification, etc. of those information assets. There are three principles of information security, or three primary tenets, called the CIA triad: confidentiality, integrity, and availability. They are defined as defined below. Confidentiality is the protection of information against unauthorized disclosure. Integrity is the protection of information against unauthorized modification and ensuring the authenticity, accuracy, non-repudiation, and completeness of the information. Availability is the protection of information against unauthorized destruction and ensuring data is accessible when needed. Put simply, an information security policy is a statement or a collection of statements designed to guide employees' behavior with regard to the security of company information and IT systems, etc. These security policies support the CIA triad and define the who, what, and why regarding the desired behavior, and they play an important role in an organization's overall security posture. Since security policies should reflect the risk appetite of executive management in an organization, start with the defined risk in the organization. Write a policy that appropriately guides behavior to reduce the risk. If an organization has a risk regarding social engineering, then there should be a policy reflecting the behavior desired to reduce the risk of employees being socially engineered. One such policy would be that every employee must take yearly security awareness training. Since information security itself covers a wide range of topics, a company information security policy are commonly written for a broad range of topics such as of the following: access control, identification and authentication, data classification, encryption, remote access, acceptable use, patching, malicious code protections, physical security, backups, service security, employee on and offboarding, and change management. A business case provides justification for undertaking a project, program, or portfolio. It evaluates the benefit, cost, and risk of alternative options and provides a rationale for the preferred solution. A common way of thinking about a business case is using these 5 elements. Strategic context is the compelling case for change. Economic analysis, return on investment based on investment appraisal of options. Commercial approach is derived from the sourcing strategy and procurement strategy. Financial case, which refers to the affordability to the organization in the time frame. And management approach, which is the roles, governance structure, life cycle choice, and etc. The business case is reviewed and revised at decision gates as more mature estimates and information become available. The approved business case provides a record of the decisions made by governments about how to achieve the required return on investment from the work. It documents the options considered, and it is normal practice to include the do-nothing option as a reference. Through this approach, the business case becomes a raw record to the recommended option with the rationale and evidence to support the decision. Business case, if approved, results in a formal startup of the project, program, or portfolio. The sponsor owns the business case. It brings together the investment appraisal with the evidence of how the investment is intended to lead to realization of the intended benefits. All projects must have a business case that demonstrates the value of the work, and it is outlined during the concept phase of the life cycle. The ISO 27002 standard is a collection of information security guidelines that are intended to help an organization implement, maintain, and improve its information security management. The ISO 27002 provides hundreds of potential controls and control mechanisms that are designed to be implemented with guidance provided within ISO 27001. The suggested controls listed in the standard are intended to address specific issues identified during a formal risk assessment. The standard is also intended to provide a guide for the development of security standards and effective security management practices. Findings from a risk assessment provide policymakers with an accurate picture of the security needs specific to their organization. This information is imperative because proper policy development requires decision makers to identify sensitive information and critical systems, define institutional security goals and objectives, set a course for accomplishing those goals and objectives, and ensure that necessary mechanisms for accomplishing the goals and objectives are in place. Effective security policy focuses planning, guides activity, and ideally permeates an organization's entire culture. In this way, legal and regulatory concerns, organizational characteristics, contractual stipulations, environmental issues, and user input can all be incorporated into policy development. Effective security policy synthesizes these and other considerations into a clear set of goals and objectives that direct staff as they perform the required duties. Standards are much more specific than policies. Standards are tactical documents because they lay out specific steps or processes required to meet a certain requirement. As an example, a standard might met a mandatory requirement that all email communication be encrypted. So although it does specify a certain standard, it doesn't spell out how it is to be done. That is left for the procedure. Baselines is a minimal level of security that a system, network, or device must adhere to baselines, as are usually mapped to industry standards. As an example, an organization might specify that all computer systems comply with the minimum trusted computer system evaluation criteria standard. These standards are discussed in detail. Guidelines. A guideline points to a statement in a policy or procedure by which to determine a course of action. It's a recommendation or suggestion of how things should be done. It is meant to be flexible so it can be customized for individual situations. Security procedures are detailed step-by-step instructions on how to implement, enable, or enforce security controls as enumerated from your organization's security policies. Security procedures should cover the multitude of hardware and software components supporting your business processes as well as any security-related business processes themselves, onboarding of a new employee, and assignment of access privilege. The purpose of security procedures is to ensure consistency in the implementation of a security control or execution of a security-relevant business process. They are to be followed each time the control needs to be implemented or the security-relevant business followed. Here is an analogy. Simply put, they do it to ensure that the aircraft is ready to fly and to do everything possible to ensure a safe flight. Although pilots may have flown thousands of hours, they still follow the checklist. Following the checklist ensures consistency of behavior each and every time. Even though they may have executed the checklist hundreds of times, There is risk in relying on memory to execute the checklist, as there could be some distraction that causes them to forget or overlook a critical step. And that would be all. And now let's proceed to the next topic to be discussed by the next speaker.